And we start with Phil Davis, who's here in the studio. He's played in a season opener before. Hello to you, Phil.
Gerard, 2012, I think it would have been about March 15, standalone Saturday night game. I think that's right.
Yep, Giants versus Swans.
60,000 at Homebush. We only lost by 10 goals. So, a while ago, but this is very exciting, I think, for football generally.
Make the case for opening round for us.
Well, at the end of the day, I think, being in Victoria for a couple of months now, no doubt that this city's heart beats pure football and football only. But outside of this state, you've got South Australia and W who do also really, but outside of that, we're still fighting to be the biggest game in Australia. And we might never be the biggest game in New South Wales or Queensland, but we can find new people. And if we want to grow and get bigger and be the dominant force to have every prime time spot around the country and own the calendar, we have to grow and we have to go north. That's our only opportunity to do that.
Do you like the hand-picked games?
The best. It was interesting you were saying before, I used to get so excited for Richmond and Carlton. I'd be like, can't wait, the opening round. I was generally playing a Saturday afterwards. And sometimes at half-time it was TV off. The game was over. One of the two teams was significantly better than the other. It's only, 10 years old, that tradition. So I understand that. And it's still going to be there next week. It's just different. But these are the best games by far. There's spice in all of them. And to me, it's probably the 8 expected finals teams playing on the opening weekend.
Yes, yeah. So the magnitude and the consequence in it, as so much of the season is going to be defined by how you go against teams in your bracket, and these teams are bracketed.
Yeah, and as you said at the start, like the little intricacies of the actual matchups, the individual matchups within it. The Gawn Grundy bit is just awesome. Hardwick versus Richmond. I think that's what adds another layer, let alone the quality of the teams. If you talk about the 8 finals team, obviously Richmond's probably the one that we don't think will be there. But I wasn't very impressed by Gold Coast against the Giants. And I think it's probably not what they'll show on Saturday, but if anyone's going to pull them apart again, it might be Hardwick and get Gold Coast off to a quick start.
Tonight for Melbourne. So this has been the long wait, really the long wait from the final siren of a semi-final, and then they have been twisted in so many ways, most at their own hand since then. What's it like for them to get back to it tonight?
I think there'll be a few players there, if not all of them, that just cannot wait to play. I think just the noise, especially when you can't control it, there'd be 15 players playing tonight that have had nothing to do with the saga of the last 3 months. Obviously, all of them have had something to do with the straight set exit. And I feel like that's almost been dismissed. Like the size of their failure in the finals last year has almost been diminished because of all the other issues that they've had over summer. So to me, there's 15 players that have just been sitting there just waiting. While Max has had to show up and talk about it. Christian's had to do it. Jack Viney's had to do it. So they've all had something. But the other 15 players are just like, can I just play and just see what happens? Just let me go out there, There are so many players in that boat that just want to play. And then Max, probably the biggest of them all, was just like, I want to go out there. I'm going to put this team on my back. But to me, if I could circle one player, Gerard, for tonight, it's Christian Petracca. He'll have 30-4 probably tonight, I reckon, up there, and they'll win. If it's going to happen, that's how it's going to happen. He's the one for me that will be the separator. And he's the kind of guy that I think, on top of Max, everyone's talking about Max, but him and Jack Viney, Christian and Jack, would have been sitting there all summer just stewing about what's been going on around them. And they're like, well, let's try to get off the back end front page of the paper.
It's a stacked opening for them, isn't it? Sydney and Sydney, then the Bulldogs, who we know are desperate to fly the gates, having been left behind. Hawthorn is probably the soft fixture with respect to them. Port and the Crows back-to-back in Adelaide, and then the Lions. And then they get their bye. The difference between 5-1 and premiership favourite and 1-5 and in all sorts of tumult. They are the absolute extremes of their possibilities.
And to be fair, they're probably not going to be 3-3. It's going to probably go one way or the other. I think it's going to galvanise them and away they go, or we'll see some splinters and they'll just get wider and wider. And I've been 1-5 before, and it is a long, long, long way back, and it's very, very difficult. So, yeah, I think that's about as hard as you get in terms of an opening 6 rounds. I'm probably more bullish on them at this stage. Like, I do think that every time I speak about Melbourne, I do put a little caveat next to it saying, like, it could go the other way. But I just think that they have got some players who are as good as it gets. You know, they've got 3 of the probably top 10 players in the competition on one side, and then May and Lever in the back line. I think the Pickett being suspended is going to hurt them. I forgot that he was missing tonight. So, no, it's just that getting to that bye, you just hope for them that the season's not over.
So if they've had the right conversations in behind closed doors, then it reverts to, and this is the whole point, is they are in the window. This is their golden moment. They have 1 premiership from it so far and 2 straight sets exits, which is, they're below par on what they've got.
Yeah, and it's funny, everyone's like, oh, it's such a great effort to, get home finals and play top 4 and all that. But at the end of the day, if you go bang, bang, straight sets, you face the criticism, and that's fair. They'd argue that they've got a premiership, they've done their job. Everyone would, tank and go down the bottom of the ladder to come back up like they have and just win 1. But for me, the potential and talent, and also the character that they do have on that list in the right places, means that they've underperformed. But now the challenge is, to me, it feels like this is the year that either, hey, can we continue for a couple of years? Because Christian's a good age, Max is getting a little bit old, but they've got a little bit left. But if this goes sour again, then I think you can say that's enough.
What does Gawn versus Grundy look like tonight?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Brodie, but I think Max is just going to be a level above. I think the Brodie situation's one that I'm watching. I'm a big fan of Brodie. I think he plays the right way. But it's been almost 2 years since he sort of played week in, week out. And from what I've seen from being at the Giants in terms of where the ruckmen are going, it's definitely getting to this aerobic beast players. Like the ruckmen that can just, the Tim Englishes of the world, they're just running and running and running, and Max is one of those. And that's why, for me, I'm really fascinated in seeing how Brodie goes about. There's no doubt there'll be energy. He was pretty good against the Giants in their trial game when I watched that quite closely. So I think Gawn takes the points, but if I'm Brodie, I'm a raging bull inside and with a big, big target on Max.
Yeah, it makes it so fascinating. I was thinking about it last night going, long-time adversaries, huge amount of respect.
Yeah.
Then they come together for a year, which was a misjudgment, and get to know each other intimately, and then they play against each other again. I wonder what the difference between the last time they played against each other is to now, given what they've seen up close across that period.
Well, that's what I think will be fascinating. So if it doesn't work in the back line, but if I'd been with, this is Jeremy Cameron for a while, I've picked up everything at training and watching his tape, and I know more now than I've ever known. So then when we go and play against each other, I would know exactly what I'm trying to expose. And so both of those ruckmen tonight should be showing up with, one, A, bringing what their strengths are, but B, trying to take their opposition ruck to where they know they don't want to go. And that's where I think it'll be so fascinating, because I know that Max will just run Brodie. He's just going to run him and run him and run him. And then Brodie is going to try to wrestle Max all day, try to get him in a big combat fight. So I think that's going to be a really fascinating component.
So I'm interested, Phil Davis, in what are the Swans going to be in the post-Buddy era?
Yeah, everyone would be thinking Hawthorn. Hawthorn got rid of Buddy, but they had a bloke called Roughhead and Gunston and Cyril just sitting there behind, ready to pop. To me, this is a very different situation. I think the only thing that makes it a little bit easier is that Buddy's last couple of years, he was 36, 37. So that, in terms of, it's not like a Stark pulling out of the best forward in the comp. It's sort of a little bit different. But there's a sort of magnetism that occurs when Buddy Franklin's on the field. I just remember so many times, and I'm standing on him, and it all just revolves around him.
Yep.
He says do something, someone does that. It's not like chemistry. It's like, this is about Bud, and he'll deliver, and he did it so many times. So what I'm thinking, that why I lead with that is someone needs to become the alpha down there. I've always been big on every forward has an alpha. Who goes, I'm going to set us up. Not necessarily it's all about me, but it's more like I'll be the focal point. So for the Giants, everyone will find this interesting, but it's actually Jesse Hogan sort of lines everyone up, and then Toby does. And then Toby's the alpha, but Jesse sets everyone up. And then Toby runs around, the ball comes to Toby. But the ball also goes to Jesse a lot because he's the alpha. So when Buddy was there, Buddy was the alpha, and then Tom Papley's running around doing his own thing. So my question for Sydney tonight is, no Buddy, Now, this is permanent. So when like Buddy's out for 2 weeks, you just find a way to survive 2 weeks. This is, in my opinion, a flag in the ground. Who's the next alpha? Everyone's thinking it'll be Logan McDonald, and I think it should be. But he's 22, and my interactions with Logan on the field is that's not his personality type. And maybe it will be. He just hasn't had that chance to show. Hayden McLean, not his personality type. Joel Martin, not his personality type. So it'll be Will Hayward and Tom Papley. And for me as a backman, like having a big key forward, only like I started on like Jonathan Brown. You talk about being an alpha of a forward line. That's like, to me, there's a pin-up boy. So tonight, I want Logan McDonald to stretch that chest out wide and command the forward line, and I think it'll be okay going forward. But if there's no like leadership down there, especially from a big boy, because the thing is that I talk about the key forwards the whole time. They set up the structure. They work out the distance you set up from the stoppage, from the ball movement. They are the ones that direct traffic. And because the smalls go up and back of the ground a lot more these days. So the one for me is tonight, post Buddy, who's going to be the one that orchestrates that forward line and gets the mojo going? And I think it has to be Logan McDonald. But I think it's time he takes a big step there.
So if you're the defence, if you're May and Lever, how on alert are you after, do they have the alpha here or not?
Well, it's the things I think May's now the alpha in that whole area. And that's where it's interesting is because if May can just dominate that space and if he just starts not respecting, the presence down there, he'll just start standing where he thinks he should stand. And it takes a completely different structure ahead of the ball. So that's why I think it'll be really, really interesting. And I think Logan's got the ability to. I just want my question now is, does he have the presence now to be like, all right, I'm looking around me now. Well, it's me now, isn't it? There's no Buddy. Hayden McLean goes in the ruck sometimes. Same with Marty. They all go in the ruck, etc. So it's like it's up to me, and that actually forces May to be on high alert. Versus, I've played on timid forwards, and you feel it, and you know that they're looking at you and what you're doing, and they start getting concerned about you. And I don't think Logan and the Swans can afford that because May and Lever will have 10 intercept marks otherwise.
Such a great insight. Josh Gablich is reporting that Dustin Martin has officially been ruled out of the game against the Gold Coast, so that we lose one of the elements that was going to be central to that game. So that's untimely. We've spoken a little bit about the smooth run into the season, and then you get a knock right at the end, and it disjoints your preparation, and you're not there for the first game of the year.
We overweight round one or opening round more than any game in the world, but yet it still is such an emotional bubble that you hit. Like for Dusty right now, I've been fortunate. I always dodge that, but if you watched me train Gerard the week of round one or the week before, I was not going near anyone. I sort of made a rule 10 days out. If I got a corky today, I'd be all right to play. So don't touch me for the next 10 days. I'm just trying to avoid everyone. I think Dusty got chased down, tackled, and got the corky. So I'd be pretty flat if I was Dusty. And it was also a nice little element to the story. And I think for Dusty, I think we were all excited by the bits we'd seen that he was up and going and the stories that were coming out of Richmond. And this won't affect his year, but it's just a little hurdle that I don't think he needed. He's just had such a disrupted run since 2022 that, basically since he hurt his kidney, hasn't he? He just hasn't had a really clean run. And I just feel for him because I'd love just to see him go whack this year and just show that brilliance that he is.
So the first game doesn't mean everything, but it does mean something.
Yes.
Through your experiences, can it rock you? Can it fuel you, depending on how it goes?
Oh, big time. 2017, so we just lost that prelim by a kick to Doggies. We go to Adelaide round one. We lost by 50 points. And I remember sitting in the Virgin room at Adelaide being like, oh no, are we bad? Have we missed where the game's going? We've got Geelong. I think we had Geelong round two or something. Oh, maybe, I can't remember who it was. We had someone good round two, and I was like, oh, if we're Norton 2. It's funny, 0-2 feels like the worst thing in the world because losing 2 in the middle of the season, even 3 in the middle of the season is fine. But losing the first 2, you start to be like, oh no, like this is bad. And that's why I think it weighs because you're asking yourself, have we done the right things over pre-season? And then when we were not competitive that day, we lost by 50 points and we're supposed to win the premiership that year. We're raging favourites. And I'm like, oh, well, we've missed the boat. Adelaide were okay last year. Little did I know that they were going to be the best team all year. Yep. But I remember sitting there being like, oh no, like have we missed something big here? Where are we going to finish? So That's why round one's important. We always overreact, but to me, you're trying to get a yardstick. And I messaged you yesterday. To me, all the other teams, the 10 other teams tonight and tomorrow night are all looking like, oh, can we catch these best 6 or 7 or 8 teams? That's what everyone's thinking.
Yeah, so you get a sighter. You get a sighter before you're out. And the beauty of that is it's an uninterrupted, like you can soak all of this in if you're on the coaching staff. So I'll workshop this with Sando a bit and just have a look, okay? So who's where and then what are we going to look like?
Because the thing is, let's say we're looking at, everyone looks at Collingwood. Collingwood win the premiership, everyone looks at them. They'll be going straight to Giants Stadium. They'll be able to watch the whole game. Let's be honest, they'll probably go to Sydney tonight, Queensland. If you're a senior coach, you're going to all these games, I would have thought. And then you're going to come back, you're going to finish with Collingwood and Giants. And you're going to be there and you're like, all right, I know exactly how both these teams play. Have they changed anything? All right, they're doing that a little bit differently. They're not looking for personnel per se. They're not saying this bloke's playing there. They want to see, is there any drastic change to ball movement? Because they're planned for 5 months. Like Ross Lyons over there thinking, how do I stop how the Giants and Collingwood move the ball? Okay, they've moved the ball a bit different, or they're moving the same. He'd be like, great, I can stop that. I've thought of the solution to that. So that's why I think it's fascinating for them that they get a really good, clean look.
And the emotional trigger that's there for both the Giants and Carlton as they go up against the teams that vanquished them in preliminary finals. So those are sort of stacked encounters. What are those cues like?
Yeah, we got the Doggies both times in 17, beat them both times. One was close, the other one we smashed them. Doesn't mean much. It doesn't make you feel any better because at the end of the day, you can walk off the field and sledge them, whatever, and they'll just be like, well, we played the grand final, you didn't. So, but there's an element of like, we're chasing you and we've not necessarily caught you, but we know we can actually beat you. And that's a little bit of power that I think is important. That's what they'd be chasing. For me, 2 different stories. Carlton, fairy tale ride. I don't think we're good enough to beat Brisbane. But their question is, have we closed the gap? Are we better than we were last year? Are we getting closer to actually being better than Brisbane? Which is a pretty big accomplishment because I think Brisbane are the team to beat.
Yep.
Well, I know that the Giants thought they were better than Collingwood. And that's hurt them and frustrated them. And now tonight, or Saturday night, sorry, will be proof that they think that they are. That's what they're chasing. They're chasing affirmation that they're the better team.
It's a powerful elixir when you stew on something right through the off-season.
Oh, yeah, and I know that Kingsley's been ready to go. I think if he was allowed to play that game November 1, he would have played it November 1. But
Yes.
he's had to wait till March. So, no, that's the one. I think it's Carlton, have we closed the gap? Are we better? Like, I don't think Carlton need to win this weekend. Or let's be honest, no one needs to win. But if they can get close, that's a big tick. And then the other side, the Giants will want to win. If the Giants don't win, that'll be a disappointment to them.
Okay. And just give me a baseline. What do you think Damien Hardwick will do for the Suns this year?
I was very bullish, and then I was disappointed in that. And I really try not to get caught up in the Amy Cup, the NAB Cup, the Ansett Cup, all those things. I try not to get, but I watched a quarter and a half, and I just thought I saw the same old Gold Coast, but not so much. I saw what they were trying to do ball movement wise because it's very similar to Collingwood and the Giants. But I just was like, where's that tenacity that Hardwick teams play with? And that's why I'm going to give him some time because I think he's going to push in more tenacity. And I think that's how I would, if I said why were Richmond so good? They were tenacious all the time, and they had Dusty, and they had that.
Yep.
And the thing is that Gold Coast have got the splash of talent. They might not have Dusty per se, but they've got the equivalent of Dion and Trent Cotchin. So it's like, and Jack Rewalt, I think they've got, but they don't have that tenacious hunger that Hardwick found with Richmond. And I just want to see that at Gold Coast. That's all I care about. If he gets that, the game plan will take care of itself eventually. Like it took the Giants 12 weeks. I'm happy for the game plan to take. I just want to see tenacity and aggressiveness from Gold Coast under Hardwick.
Are you excited for it? Are you excited to observe a season that you're not part of?
No, very much so. Very much. I think I wish I was a part of this weekend.
Yep.
Like, I know we've got lots of Victorians who are upset, and I think my view to that is we've sometimes got to think about people that aren't ourselves. And for me, it would be great to be going to the MCG tonight for a game. It would be. It'd be awesome. However, we're getting football 1 week earlier than we usually get it. And secondly, we're creating up an opportunity here for the game to actually grow. The 20th team's not going to be in Victoria. I'm not sure Collingwood can get to 200,000 members. So it's like, where do we grow the game? Where's our next avenue? And, you know, people are like, don't grow. Well, you have to grow. If you don't grow, you die. So for me, let's be open-minded to it. But I'm just ready to go, lock in, sit down and watch. I think it'll be 4 great games of football. And I'm looking forward to cheering on and seeing who wins.